Welcome to another morning coffee with Trevor. I'm your host, Trevor Matthews. And it's another fantastic day. It's always great when you can get up and you wake up before your alarm. I think that is something awesome when that happens. I love when I wake up before my alarm. I know it's going to be a good day at that point. And on your own accord, though, not with the kids kicking you in the back and hitting you. But yes, waking up before alarm is great. So yesterday we spent some time talking about, service guides, why it's important to read those guides and find out, and review the different guides that compressor manufacturers make, because it's so important to look at them and see what their guidelines are, because they test those compressors to different specs, through different operation envelopes, through different temperatures, pressures, and you want to follow up and just make sure that that you're inside those parameters. Because if you're not, you're going to run into lots of different issues, and you may not figure it out because you didn't read those guides. And so it's important to find them, look at them, and review them. And this goes for any component in a system. It could be a metering device. It could be a fan, an ECM fan motor. So that's a big thing you need to understand is, like, if you're working on ECM fan motors, well, how do they work? What makes them function? How do they change speed? How do they ramp? You really want to understand all that stuff. What is the signal? Calling it on, turning it off. And when you start to understand those processes of each component, it's going to make your job easier. You're going to have the full cycle of the understanding of that system, the sequence of operations. I had a meeting yesterday with a technician, and he's getting newer to the refrigeration industry. And he was like, I understand like the sequence of operation of furnaces and like heating units, because that's really what, when he was in school, that they focus on, and exactly how the sequence of operation goes and the step-by-step sequence. So if you're watching the furnace start to, you get the first call for heating, that thermostat closes, power goes from that transformer down to the board, starts the inducer fan motor, and then the proving switch, and so on and so forth. But it's the same thing in refrigeration. It's the exact same thing. You need to understand the sequence of how that refrigeration system turns on, and the steps on and stages as it runs, right? So that thermostat closes, it sends power to the solenoid. The solenoid opens up, it sends refrigerant through. The low pressure control makes the contactor pulls in, the compressor turns on, and so on and so forth. And when you understand the sequence of operation of the refrigeration system, it's going to make your job easier too, because when you start the system up, you can think and understand the processes that are happening. And then if that doesn't happen when you're in a troubleshooting situation, then you can start there. And you always start from the beginning. I got my main power coming in, and then you go from there and make it sure, following the wiring diagram, if you have one, following the wiring diagram and making sure you got continuous power to all those different components when they should be getting power, depending on when relays are opening and closing, turning on, turning off, things like that. Joel, how you doing?
Hey Trevor, morning. How things?
Man, things are really good.
Yeah.
Thanks for reaching out yesterday.
Yeah. There's some questions I had, and a little feedback from you. What I see is going on a lot out here now. I know guys in the US could either update me or give me a little advice. I think some of our problems in the Caribbean would be getting parts, in terms of, because we have delayed times. So I know they have those problems in the US, because they are right there. But actually getting to the Caribbean, you might have gotten stuff in about like 4 to 6 weeks. Now delays are even more. So maybe I'll have to try and either network or try and find out from some of the guys, what's the best ways, or who you could get, good parts still, like fan motors and those stuff, you know.
Yeah, I totally understand the struggles. Like even here in Canada, I've been talking to some technicians, some training programs that I'm doing, and technicians said I ordered a part, and they said overnight, and it took 2 weeks to get overnight. And like it's from a reputable company, and it's just the supply chain here, everywhere is damaged, and I can't imagine the lead times that in remote places. So what you can do though, there are different parts suppliers that may ship to there. It's always going to cost more because if you're putting it on a plane or if it's overnight, but it's a struggle right now. You have to maybe be a bit resourceful on the equipment you have. And I see anytime you're decommissioning a building, if there's any retrofits, save those parts. Like I know it's not something you want to do, but if you can't get a part and you have an old used one, use that until you get the new one. And that's a big thing. And because I know that's a lot of times I've torn out many stores and the parts just, all the fan motors and the fan blades, just gone. But if you're in a location where you don't have access to equipment very often, you have to be resourceful for me. So maybe start thinking or calling up competitors. You got to think outside the box. Call your competitors and ask them if they have those parts. See if you can buy them from them. Yeah, I know it's a struggle out there to find parts. Yeah, even here in Canada. How's everybody else? Do they feel that they're feeling the strain on the supply chain?
I think good morning, Trevor. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning,
I
Victor.
think that's a problem that's everywhere. The lead time and getting parts is going to be huge, and it's still right now with the war going on in Ukraine. It's going to be worse. So we have to be prepared for.
I was on a meeting yesterday, I think, or on Tuesday, and these are with people that are very influential in the industry, not in the HVAC industry, but in their industry. And they said that it's going to get worse. They said they've been watching boats, ships that carry all our products across the seas from different countries that make it, and they haven't left the port in 50, 100 days, 150 days. They're just still sitting there. They're not moving. So when those ships aren't moving, that means products not traveling. And those ships are usually turned over very quickly, they said. And now when they're sitting there for 50, 100, 150 days, that means millions of products and millions of parts in every different type of industry are not moving. And it's going to be an issue for a little while for sure. So that's why you got to be resourceful, Joel. Like I said, call competitors. I know that's something you don't want to do, but if you need to help your customer out, call a competitor. Call different suppliers. Don't just rely on your regular suppliers. Maybe it is a parts suppliers. I can send you a list of a few. There's National Parts, there's Parts Town. There's a few other ones that may be able to have a specific part. The customer's going to have to pay a bit more to get it. I'm sure everything is through the roof on prices, but try to be resourceful. Yeah, so getting back to the manuals, it's super important to take a look at those and read them, fine tune them, and understand them, and then understand the sequence of operation of that system. A lot of times in say a refrigeration manual, if it's a Heatcraft, it's a Kaiser Warren, if it's a Hussmann, whoever it is, they do. Sometimes you have to read between the lines. They're thick manuals and they don't specifically say this happens and this happens, but you do need to get a better understanding of how that equipment works and understand the sequence of operation. I highly recommend drawing it out. When you start to draw out what you're working on, so even wiring diagrams, I've seen them, and I know it's been frustrating for me when you look at it, it looks like a spaghetti mess. you know, and I was taught, okay, power starts here and then it ends over here in the ladder diagram, but that's not the way it works. Power moves in all directions, you know, it flows everywhere. So you need to understand how it flows. And then I really started to learn a lot more when I spent some time drawing it out. I'm not a good drawer. And so you don't have to be a good drawer. You just need to understand how things are working, especially with a piping diagram. In some of my trainings, what I do is I get the technicians to draw out the whole piping, the mechanicals of a system. And they're like, well, I never did that before. Well, you need to do that if you want to get better at understanding the flow of refrigerant. Why is it going this way? Why is there a valve here? What way is it going? Why is the line size this? You know, gotta be curious, because that's a lot of things as a technician we don't really do. We just, you know, go in, troubleshoot, try to fix the problem and get on to the next call. We don't spend the time to really learn the deep technical and the design. I think that's a big thing, the design. Great technicians understand designs of the system, and they can, you know, read between the lines on how a system works, and then they can draw out that system. Like ever since I've done that, start drawing the systems out, I know exactly where every pipe goes. Doesn't mean I know what all the components do, how they work, to be honest with you, but I know the flow and where they go. And what is this component? If you don't know, then you find that out. And then you draw that out and you make yourself like a little diary or journal or a notebook with it in there, so you get a better understanding. And over time, you'll get a thick notebook on different applications, different systems. That's going to really give you an understanding of, okay, I've seen this before. I've drawn it out. I drew it out, and now it's how does all these different things function and work? These different components, because there's more and more components coming onto the market each day from different manufacturers, new manufacturers coming up with new products, new designs. And it's so important as a technician, as a refrigeration professional, to understand how each of them work. And I think that's where a lot of people get caught up, because they do not understand at a, you know, at a fundamental level to an advanced level on how a specific system works. And this could be from a little light commercial system where you have, you know, a 1/8 horsepower compressor on it, and you just have a cab tube, condenser, and a evaporator with a couple fans, to an advanced system like a parallel racks system or a CO2 transcritical system. And we need to spend the time to learn that stuff. And when you start learning that stuff, you're going to get better, but it takes time. You can't learn it all overnight, but you want to invest in yourself every day to understand, okay, so I got these temperatures here and I got these temperatures here. What does that really mean? Here's the ambient. This is the amps. Okay, this is the, okay. Now what do I do next? You know, you get all that information and you kind of figure it out. You go to that, like I said before, you go into the compressor operation envelope, the performance charts, the electrical curve charts. Okay, you check out the condensers, see if they're clean. You know, you just take really a systematic approach when you're troubleshooting. It doesn't matter if it's a small system or a big system, because what happens a lot of times is that we don't know. We're maybe not confident. We get overwhelmed. And we really need to step back and really think about the problem and break it down, because we are in a rush a lot of the time, because we get somebody calling us saying, okay, you got to get to the next job. You got to get to the next job. You know, you got 5 calls holding, whatever it is. You got to, when you're at that job, that specific job, you just got to sit back, take a breather. Okay, I'm focusing on this problem first. Where do I start? You know, you don't start and say, okay, I'm going to work at the TX valve. Let me adjust it because it's starving. No. If it was working for the last 3 months, the chances are very high that it's not the TX valve, that it's starving. And by opening it up is going to help it. Maybe it's a plugged screen, you know, or plugged filter, but opening it up is not going to, you know, fix the starving problem. Maybe it's low on gas. So these are different things you really want to think about. And then when you have that systematic approach and you understand the sequence of operation of that specific system, it just makes it so much easier, makes you more confident when you're troubleshooting a system. Anybody have any questions? Or how do you guys take your approach when you're doing troubleshooting or a service situation? Or, you know, helpful tips that you would do?
Yes, Trevor. In the past, I was when I'm troubleshooting refrigerant system. Sometimes I think I am the refrigerant growing through the pipe. So I have to think what will happen when I reach the condenser, or what will happen when I read the metering device, and what happens to me when I leave the evaporator, something like that. And that's one thing that I in the past used every time to troubleshoot. So and measuring. Measuring is knowing what's happening. If you don't measure, you can assume that something is happening if you don't measure.
I really like that, Victor. You know, thinking yourself as the refrigerant going through there. That's a great way to think about it, and make yourself, you know, feel like your refrigerant. What is going to exactly happen? Okay, compressor compresses vapor, so I'm a low pressure gas, and then now it squishes me, and it squishes those molecules. They turn into smaller gas molecules, and then I'm discharged, and I'm super hot. I'm really hot right at that discharge valve, and as I start to leave the compressor, I start to cool off a bit. I'm desuperheated, and I'm desuperheating more until I hit that condenser. When I hit the condenser, oh, some air is hitting me. The fan is over me. I'm starting to turn into little liquid droplets. And as I start to drop, I condense a bit more. And as I condense a bit more, I'm fully liquid now, and I'm halfway through the condenser, or I'm 3/4 way through the condenser. You need to understand that. Where does that liquid stop? Yeah, like where it starts, sorry. And then, okay, now I'm a high pressure, high temperature liquid refrigerant leaving that condenser. I got a full column going down my liquid line. But now, am I staying a full column of liquid the whole way? Am I flashing? Am I starting to flash and turn to bubbles before I get through the solenoid and then the metering device? That's a great way to think of it. And then as you get to that metering device, now I'm squished through this little tiny hole, you know what I mean? And now I'm breaking up, and I'm starting to flash into a distributor. And as I travel through the distributor as like a liquid and a vapor, I get into the evaporator. And then as I'm going through the evaporator, I'm starting to boil off. I'm boiling. I'm turning into little balls of gas. And then as I leave the evaporator, then I'm full gas, either halfway, 3/4, 7/8 through that evaporator. Now I'm a fully superheated gas picking up heat on my way back to the compressor. So that's good. That's a good way to think of it, but that's the process, what you need to think of as a technician. There's going to be other things, I just kind of went through that really fast, but that's a good way to look at it, Victor. So excellent. Robert threw something in there. Let me just click on it. See what happens. Better not be a virus, Robert. Cool start. Calculating refrigeration and air conditioning, quick and easy. I'll check it out. I use this software as PipeCal. Okay, fantastic. I'll take a look at it after. But that's why it's so important to understand what is going on in the system, and the way Victor thinks of it. I think that's a great approach to take. How am I, I'm the refrigerant through the system. And then it's no different with electrical. You should think the same, I guess, in the electrical side, because current flows. What way am I flowing? And do I stop somewhere? And what's my voltage? What's my amperage? What's my voltage drop? All these different things. What's my voltage to ground for safety? And thinking about all these different things in different ways is just put it in more perspective, and just winging it, because that's what a lot of people do. They just wing it. And I've done it before. Don't get me wrong. I've done it in the past. I've just wung it. And sometimes I got it. Sometimes I didn't get it right. But over time, when you want to become better, you really got to understand that system at a fundamental level. Lately I've been having a lot of people reach out to me for different requests, like um, mentoring, training, coaching, and I just kind of want to get an idea from some of you. What do you guys do to help the industry, help your companies for mentoring, for coaching other either newer people to the technician, newer people to the industry, or people even in the industry? Oh, hello there, and even like people that may want to try into the industry or experienced people. How do you mentor and help people that is already in this industry to help them grow? Because I've heard a lot of times like, oh, well, Trevor, I've only been in here for a couple of years, like I don't have anything to offer. Well, that's not true. You have your experiences, you have what you've done so far in the industry, and you can share that stuff. It doesn't matter if you've been in the industry for 10 years or 2 years. You have experiences and different experiences than other people, so you always have stuff that you can share. So what do you guys do for that, for coaching, for mentoring, for helping grow others? If anybody wants to share.
How's it, Trevor? Hi everyone.
Hey.
Well, in South Africa, we don't have very many refrigeration training centres. We have there are a few. If you're out in the sticks, it's pretty far to get around to go and to take time off and go and spend a month or two in a training facility. But usually, what we do is, or what I do is, you do a lot of in-house training. You try to the best of your ability, and you just need to find the time. Early in the mornings, even on a Saturday morning. Some of the guys come in and spend an hour or two to do some internal training. I find the hardest thing with a lot of my guys is either you can teach somebody or you can't. So a lot of people will just turn around to me and say, "Look, Adrian, no way, but I can't teach. I'm too impatient, or I don't have the patience to show the guy if he doesn't do it right the first time. I'm gonna, he loses his rag," type of thing. So certain people can train and certain people can't, and I think a lot of people are just. But I also find is, I think when you try to train somebody and you feel that you don't want to show that you don't know everything, so you sort of like rather shy away because you don't know. Well, I don't know everything. I've been doing the game for 50 years. And people just don't want to show or let it seem like they don't know everything that there is to know, and then they'd rather just don't help anybody.
Yeah. And I've seen that a lot too. And I've heard that there are people that have a tough time training, sharing their knowledge, but it doesn't mean they can't learn that. You know what I mean? They just got in the mindset that, oh, I'm not patient enough. And maybe you're not at first, but like when you say, oh, when you started out in refrigeration, you knew how to pump down a rack. You knew how to charge a CO2 system. It takes time to learn. And as a trainer, it takes time as well. So yes, maybe at the beginning, you may be frustrated and they don't get it the first time, but it's just like any skill. It's something you can learn. I'm trying to get more people out of the mindset, well, I can't train. I don't have the patience to train. If you don't have the patience what about, do you have kids? You know what I mean? You don't train them. You just let them wander and they figure out the world themselves? You don't teach them how to ride a bike or go fishing or whatever it is. I play a sport. It could be anything. You don't teach them how to make themselves breakfast or whatnot. So you train. You're always teaching and training. It is an art. And it's like anything. It's like being a refrigeration mechanic. You got to take time to learn it. Training is no different. And I've seen this and I hear this a lot, and it's the mindset that they're in. Well, I don't have the patience. Well, they don't have the patience. Well, they're not comfortable. Maybe they're outside their comfort zone, and that's why they get really frustrated. And like Adrian said, well, maybe they don't know the answers, and that upsets them more. So they want to shy away from it. Because I've been there. I always felt like I needed to know all the answers. Well, I'm the trainer. I'm in front of a group of 30, 40, 50 people. I need to have all the answers, but you don't. You know, you just need to share what you know, and hopefully that triggers something inside them. Just one, two things, and inspires them to want to share it with other people. You know, because we need more people sharing their knowledge. And if we don't, it's going to be a bigger struggle for the industry. And I've heard about it before, you know, well, you know, if I share my knowledge and I'm out of work, there's so much work out there. It doesn't matter where you're at in the world. If you want a job, you want to move somewhere and you know refrigeration, I'll get you a job. I'll be able, if you're an expert at refrigeration or you're really good at it, you can get a job anywhere. You can go to South Africa right now. You talk to Adrian, you understand CO2 system, you understand refrigeration, he'll be able to find you a job there. Or Victor in Aruba, you can go there. Like if you know refrigeration, the other refrigeration mechanics are going to help you get a job. But you need to care and you need to understand it. It's easy to get work. So you don't have to be like, if I share my knowledge, I'm going to lose my work. No, you just continue to get better. More people want to come and either work with you or work alongside you because you have the knowledge and they want to get better and grow and learn from leaders, learn from people who maybe not even the experts, they just really care and really want to share the knowledge and learn together. I see some of the best teams, they're learning together. They're not experts, but they help coach each other and talk to each other about, okay, well, this is the way I've tried it. It didn't work, caused the compressor to fail. So don't do that. You know, I learned from that. And so let's try it a different way. Let's learn a different way. And it does take time, and it does take over time, having some patience and learning how to train and educate and be a mentor, but you can do it. And anybody who is a refrigeration mechanic, if you can do refrigeration, because it takes a long time, 10, 20 years sometimes to become where you want to be. You know, sometimes people learn quicker, but it takes a long time because there's so many different systems, so many different designs, so many different ways to troubleshoot, and it takes time. So it's no different as being a trainer or an educator. It just takes time to learn that and figure out how you can curve your path in educating and sharing your knowledge. Anybody else? How about you, Joel? How do you share and help the people on your teams? It's not there. Anybody else?
Another interesting one that I found where I am, it's happened to me a few times already in the past, is where you get the guys that are around 62, 63 years old, and they're getting close to retirement. Now, the law in this country says that, you know, if you hit 65, you got to retire.
You have to retire.
Yeah, so then they can't, you know, you can't claim certain benefits from the government, taxes and stuff like that. So medical or workers' compensation, I don't know what you call it in Canada. But anyway, so the guys don't want to give away any of their knowledge. They try and hold it on because they're in this fear that as soon as I hit 65, I'm gone. Or if I teach them now, they'll let me go before I'm 65 and I can still work for 2 years. But I say to them, guys, you know, you resign, you'll get to retirement. But then we'll employ you as a contractor. Because those guys are the guys with the skills and the knowledge, and they've been around for ages, and you don't want to lose them because you already have a skills shortage in the industry. So when the guy hits 65, you don't want to say to him, go lie in the pastures. You want to keep those guys because they train and they help and they're knowledgeable, but it's quite a big problem where the old people don't want to share their knowledge. Really is rather funny. I don't know why I see it as funny but strange, but it's something I picked up a couple of times.
Yeah, I've talked with a large contractor in Western Canada about it, and he was like, man, Trevor, like my guys, because he's been there 35, 40 years, and he was like, he started with all these older guys, and he was like, he said, when I was talking to him last year, he said 5 years ago, I told him, like, you need to start, you know, investing time to train some of these technicians. And what he's done, he's thought about different ways of doing, okay, you know, you don't want to be working as much, but what I want you to do is, like, you don't get a truck, you don't need tools, but 3 days a week, I'll have an apprentice pick you up and you'll do ride-alongs and I'll pay you decent amount of money, just your wage, but you don't have to deal with the on-calls. You don't have to deal with the stress of the calls. You're going around and sharing your knowledge, over time. And so he's helping the technicians, because when you get to that stage of life, you don't want to be lugging compressors. Most guys, there are some out there that they're hardcore and that, at 60 they're still pushing the 40, 60, you know what I mean? But most of them, they want to start to wind down, and training and educating, I think, needs to start whenever you can, doesn't matter what age. And so when you get to that, to where your career is starting to wind down on the tools anyway, it's to develop different plans for them, different paths, so they don't have to work 5 days, 6 days a week anymore. They don't have to work, those 80 hours a week on call, and come up as a business owner, come up with some ideas on how you can structure it where these guys can share the knowledge. Because I see it in every industry. It's not only in refrigeration. When I was in the corporate world, working at Emerson, I seen so many people that had 20, 30, 40 years of knowledge, either retire or early retirement or whatever. And all that knowledge was gone with them. And I seen all these new people come in and there was no one to help with that knowledge. So it's not only in our industry, it's all over the place that it's happening. So we need to figure out a way to get that knowledge and share that knowledge.
Trevor, I think, yes, all over the world, they have to use the experience of the old people to train our young professionals. It's one thing I can teach you all the basic or all the fundamentals of refrigeration, but still, if you don't have the experience, you won't be able to work it out like it's supposed to. So someone from the experience world have to tell you, hey, this thing, you cannot do it because of that and that and that. So you will understand a lot better. And I think we still, all over the world, we still need to use those guys that went with pension, do them something, give them something to do afterwards, so they can still get another income and keep our people focused in the work.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because we need to, we need to figure out ways to do it, because we live a lot longer than people say. You know what I mean? It's not like we're done at 60. People are living to 80, 90, 100 years old. That's a long time to sit around and do nothing. Don't get me wrong, there's stuff to do, but I know many of the people I meet, they don't mind doing something, volunteer even time. And this is the way that they can make it, like you said, an extra income, sharing that knowledge and continue to get it out there in different ways. And it's how do we support the industry? Because I continue to see the people that have been in the industry for a really long time, they still continue to want to support the industry, because they loved refrigeration over the years. It gave so much to them. And there's sometimes there's nowhere, they don't know how to continue to help the industry. When you get over 60 or 65, if you're not still involved with a company or something, right? So man, that's something I'll think about, how to do that. Any other questions by anyone before we get going here?
I always tell my missus, I don't work for ABC Refrigeration Services or XYZ Refrigeration Services. I work for the industry. If it wasn't for this industry, this trade wouldn't be around, and it's an amazing trade.
Yeah.
So we got to give back to the industry.
I totally agree with you. And this is what I'm trying to talk with young and new people into the industry about. There's a lot of people out there that care, that want you to grow. Maybe at the company that you're at, those people don't want you to grow. Maybe not. Maybe but you know what? There are people like us that want you to get better and grow and be better. I want you to know more than I do. I want you to be able to troubleshoot better than I can, understand, train better than me. If I can help you do that, it means I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part for the industry. So awesome, everyone. Well, I want to say thank you so much for hanging out with me again this morning, and let's get a conversation going again tomorrow. See you.